or stop progressing. It incorporates the current developments in information technology, such as linked data, RFID, and seamless migration of data. It is now RDA compliant. What next can we expect to harvest from these rich siblings? Mobile access? KohaCon involves. Year after year, KohaCon is upgraded by various dedicated volunteers from different parts of the world, working tirelessly and throwing their full support to the successful attainment of the KohaCon ILS mission. They listen to the never-ending queries of hard-working librarians. Just like most of us who'd never say no to most reference queries, these volunteers would move heaven and earth to solve issues raised by the users, which are primarily the librarians. They now even manage to answer queries in real time. I really admire the support system of KohaCon ILS, and I would like to commend the very detailed user manual that they have written and produced. KohaCon is free, and we all know that. Most libraries are attracted to use the KohaCon ILS vis-a-vis proprietary software, basically because it can provide the same features and functions of the latter without the prohibitive cost. This is an attractive alternative, especially now that librarians are morphing into competent information science professionals. In fact, the KohaCon ILS Philippine volunteers are mostly librarians, licensed librarians, like Mr. Eugene Espinosa, Mr. Manuel Tamayo, and Mr. Jerwin Fernandez, to mention a few. Any librarian can learn online how KohaCon works or attend conferences like this, download the file and install it. This system gives libraries freedom from licenses and copyright restrictions. Let me now go to the last letter of the acronym GIFT, T for transformation. KohaCon transforms. Patrons of Philippine public libraries now use KohaCon online public access catalogs to access a treasure trove of information at their libraries. They can use these to transform their lives. A wistful reminder here that eventually, with KohaCon ILS, this bastion of public knowledge will continue to take a necessary pillar in our cultural and socioeconomic priorities. Just imagine, one unemployed father of three can go to the public library to know more about the basics of English language in applying for a call center job. He gets to access those English learning materials through OPAC powered by KohaCon. Without KohaCon, he will have to laboriously sift through those print catalog cards just to get the correct set of information. Koha gives him a convenient, fast, and reliable option. Koha conferences like this gathering provide people who make up the Koha ILS community to meet personally, exchange experiences, and assure the relevance and responsiveness of Koha ILS. I hope that this conference will result in new developments, strengthen the camaraderie among volunteers and users, and create massive benefit the local and international library communities. One day, the physical library will get leaner and compact because everything will be online. But its mission will certainly remain relevant and far-reaching, helping foster an information-savvy and literate society. I hope Koha will still be around to support the libraries in transitioning to that era when a truly digital database of authoritative, relevant, and full-text information is within our fingertips or voice command. Confidently, with the growing number of passionate volunteers, continually churning out innovative technologies, and we librarians always willing and ready collaborators, may our partnership remain strong and vibrant for the years ahead. Thank you and mabuhay.
Thank you, Ma'am Yolanda, for that keynote address. In fact, Koha is a gift to the library and information professionals in expediting library processes from acquisition to dissemination of knowledge resources. And it is indeed that this KohaCon will provide us with the knowledge that will equip us to enhance our services. To award the Certificate of Appreciation, let's welcome Maisel Marfosca, the Conference Chair and Vice President of ASLP, to be assisted by Eugene Espinosa, one of the KohaCon volunteers. Allow me to read the Certificate of Appreciation. This certificate is presented to Yolanda C. Granda, Chairman for Board of Librarians, Professional Regulation Commission, in grateful recognition for sharing her time and knowledge as a keynote address speaker for 2017 Koha International Conference, held on June 19 to 23, 2017 at Ayala Museum, Makati City, Metro Manila, Philippines, given this 19th day of June 2017. Signed, Maisel Marfosca, Conference Chair, and Randolph D. Mariano, President of ASLP. To share to us his opening remarks, let's welcome Eugene Espinosa, ASLP Secretary and KohaCon ILS Philippine Volunteer.
Thank you very much, Billy. Our indefatigable Professional Regulations Commission Board for Librarians Chairman, Ninang Yolanda Sicuranda, Ms. Maria Elizabeth Gustillo, Senior Director for Arts and Culture of the Ayala Museum. Ms. Susan Yupango, Senior Manager of the Filipinos Heritage Library. Paul Pauline of Bibliography France. Koha ILS developers, Koha ILS users, Koha 2017 speakers and participants, sponsors, friends, good morning. Let me tell you the story of how the Philippines got the rights of holding KohaCon in the Philippines. Why Association of Special Libraries of the Philippines, who are the Koha ILS Philippines volunteers, why Ayala Museum and Asian Institute of Management are the venues. Questions a number of you might be asking, especially our local participants. In 2012, KohaCon was held in Edinburgh, Scotland, and I guess Paul was there, right? I submitted a paper and got accepted, but in the end, I had to forego because of financial constraint. I even applied for NCCA grant that time, a travel grant from NCCA, but KohaCon was in the list of international conferences they are sponsoring or sponsored or financed by NCCA, hence denied of the travel grant, and consequently not being able to attend KohaCon 2012. With what happened, I was motivated of bringing the KohaCon to the Philippines or to attend future KohaCons. In March 2014, I met personally Manuel Tamayaw, one of the Koha ILS Philippines volunteers, in one local seminar we attended. Totally strangers at that time, we had a small talk, and we shared the same passion of bringing KohaCon to the Philippines. And in 2014, we had our face-to-face meeting at the National Library of the Philippines, together with Manny, who was actually not there but present through text and chat, Jerwin Fernandez, Rami Grino, Sir Edgardo Quiros of the National Library of the Philippines, and his IT staff, Ryan Tirinal. We planned of placing a bid for the 2015 Koha International Conference. However, we did not make it to the submission of proposals, and so Nigeria was the lone bidder at that time and eventually hosted the KohaCon 2015. Again, in 2015, the submission of proposals for KohaCon 2016 was opened up. The Philippines submitted again a proposal. The Philippines submitted a proposal, but we were up against Greece. Greece won the bid, and Koha 2016 was held in Greece, and I believe Paul was was there, right? And yeah, and probably some other Koha ILS users. Again, in 2016, we submitted a proposal for KohaCon 2017, and now we were up against Dublin, Ireland. Some of you might not be aware, but there is a ruling that KohaCon should not be held in the same continent within a span of 3 years. Dublin, Ireland is in Europe. Greece is in Europe, so technically, KohaCon 2017 cannot be held in Europe. So the Philippines has a greater chance of getting that coveted right of holding KohaCon if it pursue with its bid. However, this 2016 bid was a challenge for us. Our original venue, the National Library of the Philippines, was under renovation at that time, and it was uncertain yet when the renovation will be finished. Until now, I think it's until renovation. With this development, we had to pull out our submission. We regrouped through FB Messenger. The Koha ILS Philippines volunteers held an impromptu meeting. I can still remember that time I had to stop to a nearby table in order to chat with the guys from the Koha ILS Philippines volunteers. While we were doing this impromptu meeting, one member, can't recall can't recall if it was actually me, suggested Filipinas Heritage Library, which is a Koha ILS, which is a Koha ILS user. And so I emailed Ms. Susanio Panco and Cecil Aison at once. I asked them if we can hold KohaCon in Ayala Museum. They answered in affirmative. And so we brought back our KohaCon 2017 proposal, changing the venue to Ayala Museum, and took it from there. We believe we cannot do it without partnering with a local association, since our group was informally set up. And so I suggested the Association of Special Libraries of the Philippines, because it is the association that is close to my heart after being elected officer back in 2014 and 2015. Curiously, ASLP held in May 2013 a seminar on the training on the use of Koha, Day Space, and Greenstone, which was, to my mind, the first of its kind to be held in the Philippines. I was the resource person actually that time for Koha ILS. ASLP was also the organizer of an international conference, the 2013 International Conference of Association of Special Libraries, or ICOASL, hence the partnership. Why Asian Institute of Management for the HackFest? Well, it's just a stone's throw away from Ayala Museum, and they're also a Koha ILS user, so we might as well highlight AIM, and thanks for Mr. Fernandison, and thanks to Mr. Fernandison, the head of the library. It was indeed a roller coaster ride for the holding of KohaCon in the Philippines. Yes, there were some setbacks, but here we are right now, about to enjoy and learn from KohaCon. This will not have been possible without the cooperation between the Trailblazing Association of Special Libraries of the Philippines and the Koha ILS Philippines volunteers. It would not have been possible also without our venue sponsors, Ayala Museum, the Filipinas Heritage Library, and Asian Institute of Management. We would like to thank our KohaNIP sponsors. KohaNIP as in amazing. First is Paul Pauline's Biblibre of France. A special mention to him because they attended KohaCon 2017 coming from France at their own expense. And they are our KohaNIP, our major sponsor. And they actually have, they actually have 4 presentations for us in the next three days. Yeah, for the love of Koha, right? For the love of Koha ILS. Global Library Solutions from EBSCO, in which we have Alvet Miranda, one of our speakers also. By Water Solutions, which has no representative for KohaCon 2017 but still donated as KohaNIP sponsor. We would also like to thank our Bahagi sponsors. We have here Scanbit Technology and Services from Spain, from Europe too, which we have Cristina Gareta as one of the speakers also, and Jose is here. Vibal Group, OnStrike Library Solutions, and Tulong Aklatan. We would also like to thank our volunteers from the University of the Philippines School of Library and Information Studies, the guys who will be doing the live streaming, Intermores Administration, and Manila Bulletin. Let us all give them a round of applause. To all our participants, thank you for attending KohaCon 2017. Congratulations, we have made history. You attended the first international conference for library and information professionals in the Philippines that is free to join. No registration fees were collected. Let us all give ourselves a round of applause. Yeah. As my opening remarks about to end, I am encouraging you to chat with other Koha ILS users, talk with the amazing developers, learn from other Koha ILS users aside from the presentations of the speakers. Let's also make connections with other Koha ILS users, especially those coming from other countries. For those who will be attending the Hackfest from Thursday to Friday, let's give our best in trying to learn on how to participate in making Koha ILS the best ILS in the planet. To our local participants, please show to foreign guests our utmost hospitality. To our foreign guests, I hope you enjoy or you are enjoying your stay in the Philippines. Mabuhay Koha ILS, mabuhay tayong lahat. Okay. We now proceed to the main conference. We have here, starting our main conference is a presentation on the history of Koha ILS and introduction to Koha ILS. So I would like to present to you our esteemed Koha developer and guest, Paul Pauline. Let me introduce Paul Pauline for like 30 seconds. When I was starting in Koha ILS, I read this Koha diary, which tells diary of one school or academic library in the US, and then one developer from France. They were conversing through email. And then I was inspired actually by this diary. And one of those persons in that is this guy, Paul Pauline, from Bibliobre, France. So let me, Paul, you can have the floor now for your presentation.
I put a chronometer because I am speaking usually a lot. Okay. First technical problem. Up, yes. Sorry? Up, yes. Okay, perfect. So, good morning, everybody. I am really happy to be here in the Philippines. I arrived on Thursday from France, so I almost recovered from jet lag. So, Eugène already introduced me quite a lot. I'm French. I'm involved in open source since 20 years now. I'm involved in Koha since early 2002, and I served as release manager for 4 versions of Koha. I will explain later what is a release manager for those who don't know. And I founded Bibliobre, a company dedicated to open source for libraries located in France, and we have customers all around Europe and not only Europe. This is my usual introduction slide. I have added one just for you Philippine people. Yes, I'm tall, 1.94 m, because everyone is wondering how tall am I. And no, I don't play basketball, because it seems this is your national sport. And in fact, I could have added a third question, which is, can I fit into a jeepney? The answer is almost. I tried and it's okay. So let's go with the history of Koha. There will be 2 parts in my presentation, one dedicated to history, the past, and one shorter dedicated to my view of the future of Koha. I will have 2 other talks tomorrow and on Wednesday dedicated to some of my ideas for the future. So Koha started at the very late of 99 with some Kiwis. Kiwis are people from New Zealand, and year 2000 bug. Probably in the Philippines you had the same fear of all IT system going down just on January 1st. The HLT people had a system with the year 2K problem. They needed low prices, as everyone. And they needed the software that was able to work on a dial-up line. Because in New Zealand, the DSL technologies are were very expensive. They are cheaper now, but they were very expensive. So the HLT consortium, non-profit, asked Katipo, a web company, to can you do something for me? And Katipo was completely fool enough to say, yes, we will write an ILS, and we will write an ILS in 3 months, which is completely crazy. Who is an IT in this room? Please raise your hand. Yeah? Who is librarian? All others, probably? Yes. Okay, so almost only librarians. So librarians, believe me, saying I will develop an ILS in 3 months is just completely crazy. If something says I will do that, just say, no, you are crazy. But Katipo didn't know and HLT didn't know they were crazy, so they said, yes, do it. And they started to work on developing a new software, so they had only 3 months, so very limited requirements, very limited functional requirements, and they decided to do agile development, except agile development was something that did not exist under this term at this time, but they made agile development in a way the developers worked for a few days, then showed to the librarians that gave feedback, and they adapted the development accordingly. And the first version has been delivered on time, which is a second completely crazy thing, because no one ever delivered a software on time. Well, in France, and probably in Philippines as well. So HLT went live with the first version of Koha in 2000, January 1st, well, 2nd, because they were closed on 1st for data migration, not for fun, but for data migration. And at this time, it was the first full web ILS. Really, there were no full web ILS in the world. Koha was the first one. And Katipo, so the web agency who wrote Koha version 1, said, but we are not a software vendor, we are a web company. So we don't want to sell this piece of software to other libraries. So the solution is to put it as open source. So we will release it as open source, and let's see what happened. So in September, so 9 months later, Katipo and HLT released the first public version of Koha. Well, the developer slept a little bit, they fixed some bugs, they made some additional work to create a website for Koha, to start a project on SourceForge. For non-IT people, SourceForge is a repository where you can create your open source software, declare it and create it, and put the source code on SourceForge and manage it, okay? So if you meet someone who say, I have a software that is open source, the next question is, where is the source code? So at this time, the source code of Koha was on SourceForge. At the end of 2000, because I was not there at this time, they had the first developers from outside Katipo starting to work on Koha. So the first one was Glenn Stewart, the second one was Steve Stonsen. Steve Stonsen is Canadian. So it was also the first non-New Zealander. And a few months later, in May 2001, something like that, the first non-English developers arrived. It was Paweł Skutsa from Poland, and probably the first non-English library using Koha. There are some glitches on my presentation because I am an open source user, so I am using LibreOffice, and this presentation is displayed using PowerPoint. So that explains the small glitches with the first being on top or etc. And I started to be involved into Koha at the very late of 2001, beginning of 2002. For Domba Bay, I set up Koha for the Domba Bay in France. So, if you think we are in 2002. Now we see that Koha has a small established user base, so a few libraries using it in some countries of the world, a few contributors, so developers who are working on it and who are improving it. We have a website. We released the new version, Koha 1.2. One day I will add a screenshot of Koha 1 to this presentation, because the Koha that you see now is not at all the same as Koha 1. And we started as a community, as an international community, to add some new tools to help our community to grow. So we started to create a wiki to write documentation, help, and wiki things. We also started Bugzilla. Bugzilla was and still is the platform that you can use when you face a bug or when you want to add a feature into Koha. You go to Bugzilla, so the URL is bugs.kohacommunity.org, and here you can search. I have this kind of problem in circulation, in cataloging module, etc. Has this one already faced the problem and declare the problem on Bugzilla? Or if you don't see anyone, well, or if you can't find your problem declared on Bugzilla, you can add your bug on Bugzilla. And Bugzilla is also used for adding new features. So if you want to add a new feature, or if you want to request a new feature, then you can go on Bugzilla and create and say, I'd like Koha to do this and that. In 2002, we started to realize we had two major problems to fix. One that was related to translating Koha. When the Katipo developers started to work on it, they made it for New Zealander library, so it was English and English. But you know, in France, we speak French. So we had a problem. That was really a problem for French librarians. It was not possible to think about using a software that was in English. The second problem was the mark. HLT is a public library, and they really said, I don't care about Mark 21, Unimark, etc. But if we want to grow the software and increase the user base, then we need to support Mark. So we decided to launch a new version, a new major version of Koha, Koha version 2. At the end of 2002, we started to say, okay, we have a roadmap, we have a plan, we want to add translation, mark, and some other interesting features in terms of acquisition, for example. And we are a lot of volunteers all around the world, so maybe we should start to create a kind of informal organization. We started to create a structure for managing Koha development. That's something people always are curious about. How can it work? Because who is managing Koha? In fact, it's a structure that has no legal existence. Okay, there is just a collection of volunteers who want to be involved into Koha and say, okay, I join the Koha community. So we decided at the end of 2002 to have our first elected team. So we had a meeting on IRC, so a chat meeting, and saying, okay, who is volunteer for being involved and who want to endorse which role, which responsibility. So at this time we had a responsibility called Kaitiaki, which is a Maori word, like Koha. It means guardian, kind of peaceful guy, peaceful making guy. It was Pate Ayler. There is no more Kaitiaki. The next position that was very important and is still here and still very important is the release manager. The release manager is the person in charge of the next version of Koha. Okay, there is one or more version of Koha that have been released, and we work on the next version. Who is in charge of coordinating the work, validating the work, etc., etc. That's the release manager. So I served as release manager for the version 2.0. Another position was the release maintainer. The release maintainer is responsible for maintaining the current version, okay? It happens sometimes that we break things in for the next release, okay? We are developing, we are working for the future, but you have an existing Koha that you use every day, so we must not break it, but we must fix bugs. So we have two branches in Koha development. The one that we call master, which is the next version, and the one that we call stable, that is the current version you are using. We also had a QA manager. QA stands for quality assurance, that was responsible for checking that the quality of the source code was going better and better, and a documentation manager. With this structure, we started to release new versions regularly and add new features. So we added mark support, including authorities. By mark support, I mean Mark 21 and Unimark, both. In the Philippines, you use Mark 21? Yes? Yeah. In France, we use Unimark. And Spain also, most of Spanish libraries are using Unimark, and Italian libraries also, but the rest of the world, more or less, is using Mark 21. We also added a serials module, a statistics and reports module. We started to work on the advanced OPAC with features like placing a hold and renewing items and checking my finds, etc., etc. And we added also a bulk import tool that is dedicated to managing data migration. Okay, one of the goals when you want to set up Koha is to migrate your data from your previous ILS into Koha. That's probably the biggest part of data migration. I see people agreeing that experienced this many times. So we added a tool to help libraries and IT people doing migration. Then we had a new elected team for the next release of Koha. And in 2006, between 2006 and 2007, we started to have a quite strong user base and some quite large libraries trying to use Koha. And the result was, whoa, the performances becomes to be very, very poor when I reach something like 500,000 items, okay? So at this time, we decided to make a big change into Koha structure to adopt an external search engine. The name of this search engine, that is an open source software, is Zebra. Maybe some of you have heard about Zebra. Usually, IT people are complaining because, hey, Zebra is down, or I have problem with Zebra. Maybe you have heard this. When you do a search in Koha now, in fact, you are not the software responsible of searching is Zebra. Okay. In 2006 was also the first KohaCon in France. And we also decided to change some of our tools and improve them. So we moved from SourceForge to Savannah, then to Git, etc. So that's technical things. I move on. We started mailing lists. We started the French website, very important. And in 2008, 2009, we faced some trouble. Maybe you have heard of it. Now it's a long time ago, so there are less and less people who remember those days and who have heard of those days. In 2007, a US company called Liblime bought Katipo Koha activity, because Katipo, so the first author of Koha, was still involved into Koha, and they still supporting libraries in New Zealand and Australia and all around this area. And the US company Liblime bought Katipo Koha activity and merged Liblime US and Liblime Oceania. And some things happens, I won't go into details. And another company called PTFS declared she wanted to do business on Koha in US, and Liblime said, hey, but they are evil, they want to do evil things, etc. And many discussion and many crappy things happened, and at the end of 2009, Liblime decided not to share anything anymore. Okay? The problem is that they bought the koha.org domain name. So in fact, the community lost access to koha.org domain name. Most of Liblime developers coming from Katipo or not resigned from Liblime and joined other companies. Liblime announced Liblime Enterprise Koha hosted only something that was not really open source. And then PTFS bought Liblime, and now it's called PTFS Liblime. And at the end, all the community decided we move. We had some meeting together and we said, okay, we forget koha.org, we leave Liblime PTFS, what they are doing, and we continue the Koha project on a new domain name that is KohaCommunity.org. So now if you want to download Koha, go to KohaCommunity.org, not Koha.org because it's still here, but it's a very outdated version of Koha. Okay. As an open source evangelist, I really think it's a great proof that open source is good for you users. Because you see, there was a company who was expecting or trying to catch Koha and to preserve Koha for himself only, and they failed. And we continued the project, and the project is now going better and better, and spreading the world more and more. It's really a proof that open source is much more stronger than closed and proprietary software. Probably you've heard of things like Cersei buying Dynix and merging and creating Cersei Dynix, and they stopped one of their software, for example. Were you using Horizon in the Philippines? No? You don't know Horizon? No? Horizon was the ILS of Cersei or Dynix, I don't know which one. But when they merged Cersei and Dynix, they announced that they stopped supporting Horizon. And many libraries in France were running Horizon. So many of them switched to Koha. Good news. So we decided to move to KohaCommunity.org at the end of 2009, beginning of 2010. And there have been some more trouble. Now we can say this topic of Koha, Liblime, etc. is completely over. Most of the Liblime libraries are back to Koha community version of Koha. And the IPO, or Intellectual Property Organization of New Zealand, decided to award the Koha trademark to a non-profit in New Zealand and not to Liblime because they tried to get an IPO trademark, but they failed. Okay, so back to hacking. We moved all our tools to KohaCommunity.org domain, and we decided to move on and continue developing Koha. And we had a lot of idea and continue to grow and improve our organization. So we decided, for example, to have a monthly IRC meeting. So every month we have a general meeting, and now we have another meeting, a more technical meeting. So there are 2 IRC meetings every month, one that is general and one that is more for developers and more technical IRC meeting. We also define the workflow for accepting a patch. A patch is something that we add into Koha to fix a bug or add a new feature. And at the end of 2010, we defined a very detailed way of submitting a new feature or a bug fix. And how will the Koha community check that what you are submitting can be included into the official version of Koha. So we were very motivated. We had a lot of projects and a lot of exciting things to do. We knew there were more and more users running Koha, so we decided to continue and work. that also in 2009, 2010, that we decided to have a yearly KohaCon. So the last one is yours. For KohaCon 18, we already have a candidate in Portland, Oregon, and maybe Ireland too, but they should not apply, so that would be Portland, Oregon. 2019, we don't know. 2020, probably it will be in New Zealand, because that will be the 20th anniversary of Koha. So the people from New Zealand already said, well, we will apply for 2020. And I think no one else will apply. So probably you can book your flight for 2020. So after version 3.2 and all those problems with Liblime and the move to Koha community, we decided a very major change that still has an impact for you users today. It is that we switched from feature-based release to time-based release. When we released before version 3.4, we decided the list of the new feature we wanted to put in the next version, and when will they be ready? We don't know really. So Koha version 3.2 will be released when this and that and this and that is done. Except Koha 3.2 has been released with more than 1.5 years delay compared to what we were expecting at the beginning. So we decided to switch, and now we are doing time-based release. So you know as a user for sure that every 6 months we release a new version of Koha. Every May and every November, 2025 of May, 2025 of November, we release a new version of Koha. Except we put in this version what is ready. So now the versions, the May version of 2017 has been released two weeks ago. No one can say what will be in the November release. We will see what is ready will be in the November release. Okay, so from feature-based to time-based. So version 3.4, we added some, I will move quickly on the new features. What you just have to see is every time we release a new version, we fix many bugs, we do many enhancements, and we add some major features. Okay, 3.12, 3.14, 3.16, 3.18, 3.20, 3.22, no version 3.24. 1 year, well, 1 year ago, well, no, 1 year and a little bit more than 1 year ago, we decided to change the way we number Koha. Because some people were asking us, but why is it version 3 point something? Because version 3.20 has nothing to do with version 3.0. If you compare 3.20 and 3.0, that's really not the same software. There are so many more features, so many enhancements, etc. So people were wondering, but so when will you release Koha 4? So we decided there will never be a Koha 4. Or a Koha 5, etc., we decided to completely change the numbering of scheme of Koha. So now the version of Koha is numbered year.month, the year of the release and the month of the release. So if you are using Koha 16.11, it means you are using the version released in November 2016. Okay? So the version that has been released a few days ago was 17.05. Okay? And we also release maintenance version every month. Okay? And that's the third digit of the version. Okay? So now you could be using 16.11.5, which means it is the 5th maintenance version of 16.11. Got it? Okay? So now I know you're not sleeping. Thank you. So Koha 1605, Koha 1611. We started a few months before, but really since year 16, we started to do a lot of plumbing. What do I mean by plumbing? In fact, you see, Koha is, I will not say an old lady, but it started to have some layers added and added over time. Okay, if you compare the code from 2000 and the code from today, there are only a few lines in common between the first version and today's version. But when you are a developer, you can see different layers, different way of doing things. So we decided to work on plumbing, which means cleaning a lot of source code, removing what we call dead code, so a code that is useless, but it used to be useful, but now it is useless, but no one has removed it. So we started to do plumbing. And we are still plumbing Koha, which means you as users, you will not see any difference between Koha before the plumbing and Koha after, except in terms of performance, which should be faster. In terms of maintainability, it should be easier to maintain Koha. So in terms of quality and usability, it should be better in the long term. So in May, in a few, well, no, not released in the next day, released in the last 2 weeks, Koha has been released with a lot of plumbing, of course, some enhancements, well, many announcements, many bug fixes, and just one new feature. In fact, in terms of maturity, now we can say Koha is a mature product. If you look at the previous version, we haven't added very, very large new features because Koha does what an ILS has to do. And the next version of Koha, 1711, the release manager has been elected, and he's Jonathan. And just for fun and to show how international Koha is, Jonathan is Belgian. He lives in Argentina, and before living in Argentina, he lived in France. Okay, maybe one day he will live in Philippines. In fact, he's following his girlfriend that he's doing some work for sea research, etc., etc. To show you the past of Koha in my next slides, I am late. How many times do I have still? 5 minutes? Okay, exactly. Some numbers to show you the increase in terms of developers, bugs on Bugzilla, and commits, which is the number of changes in the source code. You can see we have always more and more people contributing to Koha, and more new contribution over time. At the end of 2015, I should update my numbers. There had been more than 350 different people that have contributed to Koha. The biggest part of them made small contribution, and a small part of them are major contributors. But the interesting number is that at the end there are more than 350 contributors. So now today, Koha in 2017, it is the most used ILS in the world, for sure. We don't know exactly how many libraries are using it, but we are sure there is no ILS more widely used. Probably there are more than 20,000 libraries using it. Every time there is a KohaCon, we discover there is something new. For example, in 2014, I discovered that all public libraries in Argentina are running Koha. Was it last year? Yes, last year I discovered that all public libraries in Turkey were using Koha. Are you here, Mangu? Yes, he will do a presentation about that. Tomorrow, right? Today, later, today. Okay. What is interesting also is that we have something like 100 different contributors every year, and some major some companies that are providing the biggest part of the support. So those companies, I've named them. That's Biblib in France. That's by alphabetical order. By Water Solution in USA, Catalyst in New Zealand, PTFS Europe in UK, and TK in Argentina. And since now 1 year and a half, we Biblib by Water and PTFS Europe, we are hiring Jonathan, that is the current release manager, and we are paying him just for working for the Koha community. So we are funding him just to work for the Koha community. That's the one who makes the most of the plumbing stuff. So my last slide about, well, I have other slide for the future, but I will walk quickly. My last slide for Koha community today is dedicated to trying to express that we need you, Filipinian people. Well, not only Filipinian people, but we need you. There are many things that can be done for an open source software. I think during this week we will have a lot of presentation. We will have the Hackfest where we'll try to explain you how you can participate to a software like Koha. It's not only a matter of IT people. We need librarians that can test things, that can write documentation, that can translate Koha to Tagalog, for example. Do you have a Tagalog version of Koha? No? No? Yes, no? Soon. Soon. Yeah. There are regular events, there are regular documentation to explain how to do things. And we always try to add new way of participating and to help volunteers to participate. So, give back. Every penny helps to build the house. Okay? So now let's talk a little bit about the future. In a few minutes, I have 2 talks, one tomorrow and one on Wednesday, related to what I will say in a few minutes here. So first of all, this is my opinion, my personal opinion. This is not the official Koha community opinion, even if most of the Koha community agrees with me. It's not an official Koha community position. It is a little bit provocative. The future of Koha is not Koha. The future of Koha is not Koha, but we will build it over Koha. Let me explain in the next slides. That's a list of what public libraries and academic libraries have to deal with. So physical material, digital collection, public interface, ebook lending, discovery interface, etc. And Koha, whoa, that's a LibreOffice PowerPoint mistake, because this should be here and this should be here, etc. Okay, so it's completely wrong. So Koha is dealing with. Koha is dealing with physical collection, opaque, but not with electronic resources, not with digital collection. Koha is not managing discovery. Koha is not managing portal, nor ebook lending. So what do? We have 2 options. Either we add the feature. No pressure, no pressure. So we have 2 options. Either we add those features into Koha, or we find another open source software doing that. We searched and we have found there is something wrong. Well, sorry, but in the previous slide there should be there is something wrong. See, it's blinking quickly. Here, have you seen? It blinked, but it didn't. It was not supposed to blink. So, the list of software we have identified. There is Coral, an open source software dedicated to electronic resources management. Omeka, an open source software dedicated to digital collection. Maybe you know DSpace. and are using DSpace. In my previous slide, I'm talking about DSpace and Omeka as equivalent software. And Drupal, have you heard of it? Yes, no, for building a portal. And EDS, that is not open source, but EDS is a discovery layer. Alvet will do a presentation about it tomorrow, I think, from EBSCO. Yeah. So EDS is from EBSCO. So it is not open source, but EBSCO is really playing a nice game with the Koha community in terms of interfacing Koha and EDS, and they released as open source the EDS plugin for Koha. So we will glue them, and one of my next presentation will be to present Coral for managing ERM and the link we are working on between Koha and Coral. And that's it. That's it. In fact, I had 2 or 3 slides, but I didn't want it to have the slide over. Any question now or no questions? Yeah, any question? No question? 1, 2, 3, over. Thank you.
So now we can now have our 10-minute break. So be back at 10:15 or 10:20, I should say.